This will defend.
Fly Army.
Above the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Colonel John Venencia, Colonel Rivera, Colonel McPherson, Colonel Hofer, and distinguished guests, welcome to the Department of Aviation Medicine, Aerospace, Occupational Medicine Residency graduation of 2024. My name is Keith Schultz, the Master of Ceremonies for today's graduation. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the members of the official party for today's ceremony. Lieutenant Colonel Sonia Height, Director of Aerospace Medicine, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Den, Program Director of Occupational Medicine, and Colonel Retired Brian Smalley. Guest speaker for today's commencement ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the invocation and playing of the national anthem.
Let us pray. Almighty God, today we come before you with great gratitude. This appreciation extends from our hearts for rising up before us leaders who have chosen to step forward to answer a call of selfless service. May this graduation milestone represent the reality and characteristic of exemplar warriors standing before a great nation, community, and military who will ascend to great heights of service within the healthcare profession. Instill within these professionals purpose, direction, and motivation, and to inspire and direct the same. May all service and future leadership be informed by the pillars of be, know, and do, and lead precious lives by the imperative characteristics of their strength, courage, and competence. Bless their hands, hearts, and minds for service and success. May they bring a healing and comfort through their presence and touch. I ask all things in your name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, it is my honor to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Peter Den.
Good morning. As one of the two program directors, and on behalf of the Director of Graduate Medical Education, Program Director, and GME staff, it is my distinct honor to welcome you to this morning commencement ceremony for the School of Army Aviation Medicine Residency programs in Aerospace Medicine and Occupational Medicine. I would like to welcome our distinguished guests, Colonel McPherson, Colonel Rivera, and Colonel Hofer, and our fellow faculty and medical leaders within our community, both military and civilian. I really would like to take the time to thank each of you individually and impress upon the audience how much each of you offer to the residents training, but we only have an hour. So I would just say that without each of you, this day could not happen, and please do not leave today without a personal thank you from one of our staff. And of course, I would like to welcome and thank our most distinguished guests of all, our friends and family who took time to be here today and provide the support we all need so we can perform our required duties. Residents, please stand and join me in recognizing these important people. Whatever level you are at in your professional development, today's ceremony marks a significant milestone in your medical career. You have earned something today that can't easily be taken away. Over the last 2 to 3 years, there were exams, courses, flight training, academics, travel, more exams, papers, projects, chamber coverage, many patients, and then to top it off, more exams. These graduates not only met the challenge, they often excel. So I would like to mention things like several achieved master's degrees with perfect or near perfect GPAs. We receive great feedback on a regular basis from preceptors on clinical rotations. They have imprinted themselves on this program with unique additions to the curricula and established new training opportunities. They have published manuscript in medical journals, podium presentation to national and international audiences at scientific conferences, and gave excellent Army presentation at the Aerospace Medicine Conference last month in Chicago. Congratulations on a job well done. And to celebrate your grand achievements, we are fortunate to have a significant person from our community to speak today. Colonel Brian Smalley, please stand.
So when Peter asked me to speak at the RAM graduation, I said, absolutely, I would love to. That was my first thought. And then my second thought was, do I still fit in my uniform? Happy to report it's a little bit snug, but it still fits. But all you folks on the front row, just watch out for a button that might pop when I sit down. So you've been warned. So I want to tell you all a story about how I got here and how you got here. And when I say you, I'm talking about the RAM graduates. So my journey to becoming a flight surgeon was an interesting one. When I first entered active duty at Fort Knox, Kentucky, they asked me what type of medicine I was interested in, and I said sports medicine, because that's what I was into. And so they promptly put me in the emergency room. And I was like, I'm not sure what the ER had to do with sports medicine, but I rolled with it. And I was working the night shift, weekends, but I had a lot of free time. But it was just not where I wanted to be. And one day I was doing an ER shift, and the commanding officer comes in and says, would you like to be our flight surgeon? I said, yes, sir. And he walked out, and I asked everybody, I was like, what is a flight surgeon? I didn't even know. I had no idea. All I knew is they wore flight suits and they looked cool. So, you know, I researched it. I said, you know what? I think this is what I want to do. I want to be a flight surgeon. And after I went to Fort Rucker, now Fort Novosel, completed the 6-week flight surgeon course, and I came back to Fort Knox. And Fort Knox had a reserve Apache battalion and 2 Hueys. And nobody wanted to fly the Huey because it's not as cool as the Apache. So I had an instructor pilot who had the fly hours on the Huey. So I got to fly every Friday, 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes. And he taught me how to fly the Huey, and it took me forever. I mean, I was horrible. But after about 20 hours or so, I hit the hover button, and I started hovering it. And then after that, I literally would fly for 2 hours on my own. The IP wouldn't even touch the controls. The only thing he wouldn't let me do was start it or shut it down. So it was really cool. That was the old days, folks. You probably won't get to do that these days. And that's when I fell in love with aviation, flying that Huey, taking care of that unit, and that was when I really developed a passion for aviation medicine. And then I heard about the RAM residency, and I was coming up on the end of my tour, and I had a lot of folks telling me, it's like, look, you won't get selected because it's for senior officers, majors. I was a young captain, majors, lieutenant colonels, second residency folks, because that's kind of what it was back then. But I applied anyway, and I did get rejected initially. And then after like a few months before the residency was to start, I got a call. They said, "You still want to do it?" And I said, "Absolutely." And that was the best decision I ever made. And back then, the residency was in San Antonio. And we did a lot of cool stuff. We got to fly the T-37, the Tweet, probably the most fun I've ever had in an aircraft. T-38s, even got a couple of flights in an F-16. We got to go to SEER school, water survival school. But you know, after 2 years in San Antonio and being with the Air Force, I looked like I was in the Air Force. I called senior officers by their first name. I didn't shine my boots anymore, and I tell you, that took a long time for me. I mean, that was like 2 years indoctrination before I started. But, you know, I started looking like I was in the Air Force because I spent 2 years with them. And I was a major at the time, at the end of the residency, and they tried to poach me into rolling over into the Air Force, and I could have, and they were talking, you know, a F-16 squadron, which is really tempting, but at that point I was just too green. I was like, nope, I'm staying in the Army. I like operational medicine, and that's one thing that the residency did. It got me ready for operational medicine. And it really prepared me for my first assignment into the real Army, which was the 101st Airborne Division. I mean, I served a year in Korea. I was a DCCS of a hospital. I ran an outpatient medical clinic at Campbell, but operational medicine was my passion. And the beauty of the Army is if you stay in, you can do operational, you can do clinical, you can do academic, you can be a hospital commander, or you can jump around. That's the beauty of staying in the Army as a doc. So right after 9/11, I was assigned to the 101st Airborne Division and the 159th Aviation Brigade, which no longer exists. Back then, the 101st had 2 large aviation brigades. And we sent some of our unit to the initial invasion of Afghanistan, but most of us didn't get to go. And I can remember being extremely disappointed and thinking that I might never see combat. I was like, be careful what you wish for. Anyway, I settled into the 101st. And when, in the old days, when you reported into the 101st, the first question was, when are you going to air assault school? You know, and I'm in my mid-30s, I'm a major. I stayed in shape, I've been to airborne school. But yeah, the cadre at air assault school had fun with the old guy, the old major. But it was a great introduction into the 101st because it is, after all, an air assault division, even though we still got airborne. Not too many people jumping in there, just the Pathfinders. So in 2003, we all deployed to Kuwait in preparation to invade Iraq. That's everybody went then, so I knew I was going to get to see combat. And I got to fly in the longest air assault in history in March of 2003 during that invasion. And I eventually did 4 combat tours with the 101st. The invasion, 2003, and then went back 2005 and 6 with 217th Cav. And in 2007, 2008, I went back with the 101st Combat Aviation Brigade. And then my last tour was with the 101st Airborne as a division surgeon in Afghanistan, 2010, 2011. And that year took a lot out of me. We had a lot of casualties that year. You know, and my first 3 tours was actually, I got to do operational stuff. I flew medevac, and then as a division, you're a division staff officer. And mostly what I did was go down with the boss to the hospital at Bagram nightly to pin Purple Hearts on soldiers that he wanted to get them before they got out of theater. Because once they get back to the States, things get lost and paperwork gets lost. So we did that every night. And seeing those, I mean, a lot of folks, amputees, we had 1 quad amputee that survived, a Marine. I mean, that was unheard of. But with tourniquets, it actually happened. And that's when I decided to shift gears in my career. I started lobbying to come here to Fort Rucker, now Fort Novosel. And after a year as the assistant dean, I took over as the dean of USASAM. And I can remember thinking, I made it full circle. As a young captain sitting in the flight surgeon course, I would have never imagined that I was going to someday come back and be the dean of USASAM. And I can tell you, we did a lot of good things. And I'm just going to highlight a couple things. I have to give credit to the legendary Bob Mabry and Bob Gearhart that started the ball rolling, but we put the finishing touches on the flight paramedic program. And we improved en route care with improved scenarios, facilities, and this was due to all the outstanding flight medics, flight surgeons, medevac pilots, and civilians, and some are still around today at USASAM. And that, as dean, I had the RAM program, which was located in Pensacola with the Navy at the time. And Sam Sauer was the program director. And he invited me to a grand rounds at NAMI. And I saw the Army Rams with Navy wings on their flight suits, briefing Navy aeromedical policies. I was like, I lost my mind. And so I told Sam, I don't like this. He said, I don't like it either. He was a little contentious with the Navy also. And John knows about that. John was in a lot of these conversations, so Colonel Benicia, he knows where I'm coming from. And I asked him, like, what are we going to do about it? He said, let's move to Fort Rucker. And I was like, oh, I thought there's no way we can do this. I mean, move a whole program, which has never been done in the Army. We've never had our own program. And I just kind of shrugged it off. But as I drove from Pensacola back to Enterprise, Alabama, I said, you know what, let's do it. And I called Sam and said, plan it out. And if anybody knows Sam Sauer, that was music to his ears. He had like a 20-page op order with tabs and this very comprehensive plan of how we were going to do it. And it looked doable. And I would love to take credit for the move, but Sam was the guy that made it happen. I empowered him and got out of his way and provided some top cover whenever he stepped on toes, which he did. And I got a lot of flack from the older Rams too, who thought I was crazy, because at the time everybody was talking of combining residencies. The Air Force and the Navy were always wanting to meet and say, how can we combine? I'm like, nope, I've been there. You know, I got turned into the Air Force. I saw our Rams getting turned into the Navy. I was like, nope, we are going to have our own program. I could only think of having our own Army Ram program right here at the home of Army Aviation. And even though we got a lot of pushback, Sam and I stayed the course, and here you are. So I think it was the right decision, and I hope you all do too. And I think it only makes sense that the Army RAM program is here at the home of Army Aviation. So that's my story from the ER at Fort Knox to the Dean of USASAM and how y'all ended up here today. So I would just like to say congratulations to all the residents. Well done. Congratulations to your families who had to put up with you, I'm sure, during the residency. So thank you all for your attention.
Colonel Smiley, as a token of our appreciation, please accept this gift.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present the residents graduating in Aerospace Medicine. Presenting the diplomas to the graduates will be the official party. Will the Aerospace Medicine residents now please rise and to be recognized? Ladies and gentlemen, please hold your applause until the conclusion of the presentation. Friends and family, feel free to move about for photos. The following Aerospace Medicine residents will be continuing to the Occupational Medicine Residency 1 July. Captain Cosme Belmonte, Jr. He is currently at the Basic Officer Leadership course. Major Shelby Dean. Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Brown. How about a big round of applause for our newest Aerospace Medicine resident graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present the residents graduating in the Occupational Medicine. Presenting their diplomas to the graduates will be the official party. Will the Occupational Medicine residents now please rise? Captain Iwei Zhao. Upon graduation, Captain Zhao will be assigned to the HHC 3 of the 82nd GSAB Battalion Surgeon at Fort Liberty, North Carolina. Currently, he is at the Basic Officer Leader course at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Captain John Solak. Upon graduation, Captain Solak will be assigned to the 2nd General Support Aviation Battalion, Battalion Surgeon, 4th Combat Aviation Brigade at Fort Carson, Colorado. Major Salvatore Bertuzzi. Upon graduation, Major Bertuzzi will be remaining at Fort Novosel and will be assigned to the United States Army Aeromedical Activity. Major Andrew Glenn. Upon graduation, Major Glenn will be assigned to the 101st Brigade Cab, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, as a Brigade Cab Surgeon. Major Hung No. Upon graduation, Major No will be assigned to the Camp Humphreys 2nd ID Battalion Surgeon. Lieutenant Colonel Britt Geisler. Upon graduation, Lieutenant Colonel Geisler will be assigned to the 1st Special Warfare Training Group, Group Surgeon at the Special Warfare Center and School, Fort Liberty, North Carolina. Lieutenant Colonel Julissa Mendoza. Upon graduation, Lieutenant Colonel Mendoza will be assigned as a Deputy Commander for the Clinical Services for Fox Army Health Clinic, Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. Lieutenant Colonel Jalon Newsom. Upon graduation, Lieutenant Colonel Newsom will be assigned to Simbach, Germany, the 68th Theater Medical Command as a Preventive Medicine Officer. How about a big round of applause for our newest Occupational Medicine Residency graduates. We're very proud of you and wish you the success in your next assignment. Each year, the residents select teaching faculty from their clinical rotations they wish to recognize for their outstanding contribution to resident education. I'd like to invite Chief Resident Lieutenant Colonel Brown to the stage to present the Aerospace Medicine Teaching Award.
Thank you. So it's an honor for me to have the opportunity to show appreciation on the behalf of the residents in recognizing our preceptors. Notably, we have a different type of residency with the Aerospace and Occupational Residency here at Fort Novosel. And so it's absolutely appreciated when we have preceptors that remain engaged with our program and go out of the way to ensure that we get the education we need. So with that, for the Aerospace Medicine Teaching Award, we recognize Dr. Stephen Harris. Dr. Harris, if you could come on up. Dr. Harris provides us a recurring ENT clinical experience in his clinic over in Dothan. And what's notable about Dr. Harris is not only does he provide us with an abundance of enthusiasm and education from the ENT perspective, but he also provides us a good amount of history as far as the development of aviation medicine. And if you get a chance to pick his brain, some of the archaeological finds and studies in the region. So it's always been a great opportunity. It's a special day for me to be able to stand here and recognize the efforts of Dr. Stephen Harris. So, on behalf of the Aerospace Medicine residents, I now present you the School of Aerospace Medicine Teaching Award for 2024.
Each year, the Aerospace Medicine Residents present the Resident-to-Resident Award. Lieutenant Colonel Brown will present the 2024 Resident Award.
So, a spoiler alert for the 2024 Residency Award for Aerospace Medicine. The award goes to Captain Cosme Belmonte. As you heard, he is not here today, but currently attending the Basic Officer Leadership course, which is to say something, because he would be standing here to get this award today, having not even gotten the basics yet. That speaks to his character. Captain Belmonte came to us 1 year out of being in the Army, having completed his transitional year at BAMC, and right away came in, joined forces with Captain Solak in engagement options and trying to do outreach. He later on took over as the S3 shop and handled a lot of stuff there, worked in getting in medical students, showing them the ropes. He also had the opportunity to participate and work on one of the mishap investigations, and responded to one of our decompression sickness patients that was in the altitude chamber. So already he's had a very storied experience, and he's only now, 2 years in the Army. So even though he's not here, I wanted to take this opportunity to give a shout out and recognition for our Resident of the Year, Captain Cosme Belmonte.
I would like to invite Chief Resident Lieutenant Colonel Mendoza to the stage to present the Occupational Medicine Teaching Award.
Good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, our preceptor, who we chose as a class, was not able to make it today. However, as a class, we chose Lieutenant Colonel Shoshana Zhang. She was our preceptor for Anniston Army Depot rotation. She is a great preceptor. As a class, we felt that she gave us a great experience, what it is to be an occupational medicine physician, and we appreciate her teaching, the time she took to mentor us and provide resources for our study during our time at Anniston Army Depot.
Each year, the Occupational Medicine Residence presents a Resident-to-Resident Award. Lieutenant Colonel Mendoza will present the 2024 Resident Award.
So this person was selected by our classmates, and as a class, we felt that this person has a lot of initiative. Hope this person continues to have the same drive and initiative as they move forward in their career. We know that he will, they will do great things. This year, the award goes to, again, Captain John Solak. And he would like to say a few words.
I'm not here speaking on behalf of this award. I'm here speaking on behalf of the entire residency. We all decided as a residency that behind the scenes there's someone that we cannot possibly show our gratitude and thanks, and that person is our Master of Ceremony, Mr. Keith Schultz, who does incredible work behind the scenes. Sir, when there was a change in Army pay policy and our residents were not getting paid their flight pay, Mr. Schultz went to the pay office and would not leave until he had a satisfactory answer. Sir, you define what it means to be a civil servant. I learned from you what it means to take care of your people, and I'll take them with me the rest of my career. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
As a class, as an occupational medicine class, we chose a gift for Mr. Schultz. We will miss you, sir.
I should not be allowed to speak. Some things might come out that's not correct, but I do come to work every day wanting to do the best for the program and the residents and make sure they're taken care of. But being on the spot, I'm not good at just saying things. But thank you, and let's continue this graduation so we could finish it up and send them on their way. How's that? I now invite Lieutenant Colonel Sonia Height, Program Director, Aerospace Medicine.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank everyone again, not only for your attendance today, but for what you do every day that allows us the opportunity to provide world-class physician training here at Fort Novosel. We would not be able to accomplish what we are celebrating today without the dedicated support of our residency partners. This includes our Wiregrass area preceptors, our Fort Novosel Army preceptors, the University of West Florida, our local tenants such as the Aviation Center of Excellence, Lister Army Health Clinic, Army Aeromedical Activity, the Army Aeromedical Research Lab, the Safety Center, and of course, the great staff at the Department of Aviation Medicine. Everyone carves time out of their busy schedules and gives stalwart efforts to ensure we train what the American soldier needs and deserves: quality, operationally focused medical specialists. It takes the efforts of 22 ground crew to put a single Air Force pilot in the air. If you take into account the number of preceptors at our more than 20 training sites, their clinical staff, administrative staff, and organizational leadership, along with our organizational leadership from the Department of Aviation Medicine up to the GME office of the Surgeon General, there are about 200 people involved in this process to train a single physician, and we need every one of them to make it happen. Between these two graduating classes, they represent the meticulous coordination of almost 800 individual weeks of training in academics, supervision of clinical skills, graduate projects, journal papers, conference posters, and clinical presentations. They have been provided officer professional development, military counseling, and offered mentorship. Residency training operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for several years. And although we are sad to see our residents go, our mourning period will be short because in less than 2 weeks, we will be checking in our next class that will become the graduating class of 2027. For each of these residents that cross the stage today, this is the culmination of a tremendous amount of training that began many years ago, working their way into medical school, graduating medical school, working the long hours of internship, and even perhaps sometimes as general medical officers, in some instances deploying in combat, before coming here to complete a residency that includes completion of an additional graduate degree at nights and on weekends. These residents today represent the 7th and 8th Department of Aviation Medicine resident classes accepted for training at Fort Novosel. Through their hard work and sacrifice, they have now imprinted a little bit of themselves in this program, whether it was through the growth of the Motion Sickness Desensitization Program, which treated 19 soldiers flying in from across the globe over the past 3 years, or our monthly operational aeromedical conference, which climbed to up to 40 monthly participants across all the components and the aviation line community, or covering down on the Lister Occupational Medicine Clinic while they were between physicians for the past year, or assisting Fort Novosel in acing their Aviation Resource Management Survey this year, or traveling for unique medical experiences to Pikes Peak, Taos, and even Guam. They are leaving part of themselves in our program with the understanding that we will carry on their efforts and, given the next classes, something great to build upon. The graduating physicians in this room have had many professional successes already, but sharing this moment with family and friends makes this event extremely special and something the graduates will remember for the rest of their lives. So again, thank you all for being here and supporting our program and the residents.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for a playing of The Army Goes Rolling Along. Once again, congratulations to the graduates. This concludes our formal graduation program. Thank you all for joining us today.